Yeah, like for me, it's these are questions that I would get from people even that I'm not coaching. They're maybe going
Yeah.
through this process. Maybe they're being, coached by maybe a less experienced coach, or maybe they're doing it on their own. But it's like, how do you cope with the hunger? I've got to achieve maybe a rate of loss, so I know these are the calories. And
Yeah.
one of the things I discuss with, like, there's a correlation in terms of your circadian rhythm. We talk about the sort of body clock.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whereabouts there's highest potential peaking naturally of the hunger hormone is actually in the evening.
Hmm.
And so people just think it's simply this. It's like, oh, I've been busy all day. And the reason why that it's spiking is because I'm not occupied and my brain's now thinking a little bit more about food itself. And I'm like, but there's a natural correlation with the like a lot of readings are low ghrelin production in the morning, higher in the evening. And so my advice whenever people are going through those symptoms isn't it's not always about trying to keep your brain busy or occupied or distracted. Instead, if you've got 2,000 calories that you're consuming throughout the course of the day, make sure that you're allotting quite a significant portion of that total quantity later in the evening to try to mitigate whenever that hunger hormone is going to be at its worst or at its highest, therefore. And I always think back to my mum had a dog years ago, and at 2:59 every single day, that dog would bark because it knew that it was meant to eat at 3 p.m. And that's not a word of a lie. It was on the money. My parents got up at the same time, they went to bed at the same time, and they fed the dog at the same time every single day. And so it's not just humans that'll have these body clocks. Animals can have that sort of same experience as well.
Yeah.
My advice to people is create a structure which is repeatable. So if you have, is food timing in terms of performance really important for what we do? Probably not that much. But for mitigating some of the hunger effects, food timing for me is absolutely imperative to manage a lot of those negatives. So try to get your meal timing where possible at the same time of the day. Allocate slightly higher, as you mentioned, or maybe higher protein and higher fiber style foods later in the evening. And that means you should be able to go to bed with at least some food in your stomach and not be disrupted by hunger in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I think that's all good advice. And you're quite literally talking about Pavlovian conditioning
Yeah.
with the dog, and that I like that. Okay, the things I didn't talk about, right? There's various hunger hormones, right? And one of the things that you said here was you talked about the vagus nerve, right? So this is quite literally a mechanical response, right? If you eat food, it goes into your stomach and your stomach expands like a balloon. You get a neurological response to that, e.g., your your body detects, your brain detects, oh, the stomach's expanded. We need to send a signal to the brain to tell it our stomach is full. Let's stop eating. Right? Right. It's very, very simple. Now, if you take 100 calories from salad and think about the volume, or 200 calories from salad and think about the volume of that, right? Really hard to get 200 calories from salad. Even if you eat a full lettuce, I mean, how many calories are in a full lettuce, right? And I don't even know, right? Someone can tell us. But again, compared to say getting 200 calories from a chocolate bar, very small amount, or from a sports drink, very small amount. In fact, if you drink that sports drink, that'll go straight into the stomach. You'll get zero expansion of your gut at all. So you're again, if you want to select food items which will make you feel full and satisfy hunger, then food volume is
Yeah.
important, right? Really, really important from that perspective, right? So that means filling up in veggies is an effective strategy to manage the hunger. Now, again, I mentioned already fiber being satiating, right? Again, it's satiating because you've got that food volume component to it, right? You've got that on there. After that, right? And again, you can measure this stuff. There's full scientific journals which are dedicated to this sort of stuff. You've got what we call orexogenic and anorexogenic hormones, right? So these are hormones which stimulate your body to eat food, and then you've got ones which will stimulate your body to not eat food, right? Main ones you've got are leptin, ghrelin, CCK, PYY, and then you've got GLP-1. That's the famous one that's doing the rounds at the moment, right? Now, GLP-1, right, tells your brain to stop eating. That gets triggered and that is released in response to a meal, right? That is actually only a short-term hormone, right, or peptide. Very, very short-term half-life. It's been engineered by pharmacists to have a very long half-life, so it can be really, really effective. I think originally they extracted it from Komodo dragons, James, which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah, I think they've also used it like dogs as well, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. Now the other ones you've got again are leptin.
Yeah,
Leptin is a more sort of longer term regulator, right? So leptin is released from your adipocytes. That is your fat cells. Fat cells store lipid. Lipid is fat. That is like literally a signal on your dashboard telling you to consume fuel or not consume fuel, right? From there. So it gets low, we get a release of leptin, gets sent to the brain, it says, right, it's time to talk us up now, right? And again, these are the problems that you have in that post-contest phase because you no longer have that strong emotional desire, that huge dopamine release telling you, right, stop eating. And once that dam's not there to tell you to stop eating, that hunger cascade can really take effect and cause you to go and eat as much as you possibly can. But again, you can measure this stuff. So in response to meals, you can see, right, how much does GLP-1 go up? How much does leptin go up? How much does CCK1 go up? So I'm not making this stuff up when we're saying like, okay, proteins are this, amino acids are this, um, fibers this, etc., etc. You can measure it, and then you do what I would say are real world experiments, whereby you just feed people a whole bunch of ultra processed foods, and you see, okay, well, after a week, how much weight do they gain versus people eating high quality foods, or you feed them in an acute phase, how much do they eat after these meals when you're actually measuring stuff, and the poorer quality foods are not, they just don't do as well. They don't do as well. And there's knock-on effects as well, right? Again, you've got client came to me this week and he says he suffers with constipation. I've just taken him on, right? And I looked at his diet and it's protein shakes, cream of rice, Rice Krispies, and I'm like, you dieted on that for a competition? I'm like, well, no wonder you've got no fiber in his diet, right? No fiber at all. And then he said, I'm like, look, you're gonna have to eat some veggies. So he sent me what he's been eating this week, and I was like, look, you're gonna have to eat more than just broccoli. That you can't just eat one vegetable, right? Not only do you not need different sources of vitamins and minerals, but you need different types of dietary fiber as well, because some dietary fiber is more satiating than other dietary fiber, and it has positive and negative effects on the body, right? So yeah, higher food volume, higher food quality, timing the nutrient intake. These are things in which can allow you to stick to a plan more effectively, notwithstanding appetite, which might be a physiological thing, and that's a conversation about adherence at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
yep.
Are we satisfied, pun intended, that we've covered that one?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Just trying to be obviously relevant to people that are maybe going through these sort of phases. Um, so the two sides that I was talking about was one, if you were managing your own food sources, what could you change to mitigate some of the effects?
All right. That's good. Right.
So we have, as you talked about, if you've got the choice, because some people are being coached, so they're being allocated the food sources by the coach, so they're literally just following the script. So there's two sides of that. If you were writing your own script, writing your own nutritional blueprint, I would be saying meal timing. I would be looking at making sure that maybe a slightly larger meal later in the evening, whenever ghrelin's potentially a little bit higher. And then what you mentioned are uh, soluble fiber, protein, food is going to help, and then creating a little bit more gut volume. So we're consuming things like, as you said, it could be salad, pieces like that there would definitely help. So, and then the other side, so what could people do to improve those symptoms if they were being coached and handed the nutrition so they can't change anything in terms of food sources or volume unless they communicate with their coach? So, like, I think that's a difficulty where if somebody's going to a coach and the coach is allocating them their script, their nutritional blueprint,
Mm.
and it's like, right, I'm eating what you've given me, but I am starving. And there is a lot of coaches that would just say, just do it, trust the process. Hunger is part of prep, which it is to some degree. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to at least challenge those mechanisms and make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's all good stuff. I agree in the challenging part. So just very, very quickly, if you've got white rice, have brown rice. If you've got pasta, have brown pasta. If you're having cream of rice, have oats or Weetabix. If you're being allocated protein shakes, eat actual protein sources like chicken, steak, things like that. Yogurt's great as a dairy, but it's soft, it's
Yeah,
liquid. Yeah, Kane, have actual protein. So just making these changes can make a big difference. And do you know what? Like you, I speak to lots of people, and people tell me what they're eating with their diet, and then I start to question them and push them a little bit and say, why are you doing that? And why are you not doing this? And why are you doing that? And why are you not doing this? And I can see their eyes, and I can literally see the cogs going on in their head, but I can also see the fear. And they're like, oh, fuck, he's right. I don't know what to do though. And I don't know how to broach this with my coach. And I'm paying money for this. And like I can so how can they have the confidence to go and ask the question? I mean, like I took on a client again, another one, a different one recently as well. And he said, look, mate, I'm loving this approach because like I can ask you questions. Before all I got was just eat that and don't work, just eat that, no explanation. And he
yeah,
was given such shit food to eat. And it's like this is unfortunately the standard
yeah,
that you're up against. And look, sometimes it's not the other coach's fault because they don't know, or but should they really be coaching? Different conversation.
yeah. I think like it depends. Whenever you're coaching specific clients, like if I'm prepping you, for example, with your level of knowledge and expertise, you've the coaching experience, you've the practical experience. Whenever I'm going through like even peak weekend, it's a lot about just me communicating with you my ideas, and we're sort of discussing it topical based. Somebody that maybe doesn't have that level of knowledge, if I'm coaching them, I still want to be informing them as to this is what we're doing and this is
Mm,
why. And the other thing as well, I sent out a message blast to all my athletes that are competing in September, and I've said, right, guys, anybody within the last 6 weeks of prep, there's no food changes. I want to really run the
yeah,
diagnostics with the food sources that you're using.
yeah,
We'll try to mitigate any of the sort of hunger. We're trying to retain
yeah.
as much of that performance and recovery profile as we possibly can.
Mm,
Ultimately, we just need to make sure that the foods that you're consuming most often, we know you're digesting effectively. So there may be going to be some of the components we're going to utilize on that peak week strategy as well as food volume goes up. And that's really important. But as I was saying there, it's about communicating as a coach, knowing who you're communicating with. What is their level of knowledge? What do they need to know even before they ask a question? You don't need to wait to receive a question to give them an answer. So quite often, if you have this design, it takes 30 seconds extra on your voice note back to your client to go, the reason why we're changing this week is because a lot of clients now want to know. And trust me,
mm,
I started coaching 25 years ago. And whenever I started talking about bicep anatomy to a client in Le Mans Hotel, whenever I was PT there, they turned to me and says, do I really need to know this? They didn't want to be coached. They wanted me to hold a whistle and time them while they did burpees or threw a ball against the wall. They just wanted to come to me to make me work them harder than what they would work themselves. It's a different dynamic now, and we're in a very fortunate place and privileged place as coaches to actually be coaching people that want to know, that want to learn. And that is phenomenal because it'll make you raise your game as well. So you're always one step ahead of your client's knowledge too. So definitely effective.
No, no, I think that's again all good stuff. And there's certainly something to be said for having a method as well. But whatever it is that you're doing, it has to make sense, right? There's got to be a good rationale behind it. And one thing we always teach the students is like, it's okay to say you don't know. Like that's you need humility. You need humility.